Good morning and welcome to my channel, Homestead in the Woods. I am Catherine, and this morning I'm in my kitchen and I'm going to be making blueberry jam. And here in the north part of Michigan, we have blueberries that grow wild in the woods, and I didn't actually know that we had wild blueberries on our property until just a couple of weeks ago when I was out by the mailbox waiting for someone to come by, and I looked down and sort of in the woods and on the ground, and I could see some little blue things, little blue fruits, berries, on some very low foliage. And I took a look and I go, oh my gosh, we've got wild blueberries. And so fast forward a couple more weeks and I found many more patches of wild blueberries in our woods. And so going forward now, I'm going to be looking for those in the summertime. By now, I went out and looked this morning and I found that the wildlife has, for the most part, eaten every single one. I also found a patch of thimbleberries, and by the time I got ready to go out with a bowl to pick those, the wildlife had also gotten them. I'm pretty sure the raccoons are having a field day with all of the wild berries that we have growing here around the property. So back to what I'm doing today. I have blueberries that I bought, just standard domestic blueberries, and I'm going to be using Pomona's Universal Pectin. And this I have used many times, and I have discovered that I can make really tasty jam without the chemicals that come in the mixes for jam that you get in the grocery store. I don't like those. There's just stuff in it I don't want. And so I am using the Pomona's Pectin, and I do have the book that goes with it. This is it, and it's easily purchased through Amazon. You can actually buy the Pomona's Pectin through Amazon as well. And the way it works with low sugar, and this is going to be making about 6 half-pint jars of blueberry jam with only 1 cup of sugar. And so when you divide that amount of sugar amongst 6 half pints of jam, that's not a lot of sugar in each one. So, and the other thing I really like about this is it tastes a lot like blackberry jam, which is my very favorite, but I don't like dealing with all of those seeds in blackberries. I like the flavor, but I don't like the seeds. But anyway, between the low sugar, which gives this jam some tartness with the blueberries, and there's some lemon in there too, it tastes remarkably like blackberry jam. So if you're a blackberry lover, this is a win-win situation, and especially because blueberries are cheaper to purchase if you have to purchase them at the store than the blackberries. So go with the blueberries. So without further ado, I'm going to get going and show you how to make this delicious blueberry jam. This is a jar of the blueberry jam that I made just about a week ago, just so you can kind of take a look. It is absolutely gorgeous and so tasty. There's just 2 packets of items in the Pomona's Pectin. I just wanted to go over those. And one is a citric acid pectin. Let's see. Oh, it's a pure citrus pectin. It's with no dextrose, no fillers, no anything. And then the other packet that's in this box is calcium, and you're going to be making a calcium water. And you're not going to use all of this. I'm going to shake it up so that you can really see it all settles to the bottom. Then you shake it up and you use it. But between those 2 packets, that is what all you're going to be adding to your jam to make it gel up. That and blueberries have a lot of natural pectin in them anyway. So that is what we're going to be using. I just did want to show you the calcium water because that's the first thing we're going to be putting in. And then the second thing we're going to be putting in with the sugar is going to be the citrus pectin. Now, because this recipe goes so fast, I'm going to be making sure that everything is ready. But this is the recipe I am using from the book. It is on page 47, and I think it's actually the very first one in the book. Yes, it is. So page 47, simple classic blueberry jam. So that is what I am making today. And because this recipe goes together so fast, you want to make sure that everything is set and ready to go. So in the canner here, I'm going to move the camera real quick. Okay, so down here in the canner, you can see I've got my 6 half-pint jars. I've just got it in a stock pot actually, and that's fine. because this is going to be water bath canning. So I've got that ready, and the heat is on underneath it, and I've got the pan I'm going to be cooking the berries in. I've got all of my berries, my measuring spoon, the sugar, measuring cups, my calcium water, a masher to mash the berries, and then a colander to rinse them, and then all of my rings and labels, and of course the rest of the ingredients I need from the Pomona's Pectin box. Okay, everything is set up. The first thing I'm going to be doing is going through these berries and just making sure that I'm pulling off, well, it just fell off, little bitty stems that are on them. So you don't want the stems in your jam. It just doesn't taste good. If any berries that are broken, rotted, moldy, like this one, just kind of looks a little past its prime, I'm going to get rid of those. So I'm going to be washing these. They look pretty clean, but they are from the store. So I'm just kind of looking for the little stems as I go. I've already pulled a couple off here. These are really, well, one just went on the floor. I'm going to need to go back and get that before it ends up getting squished into the hardwood. Okay, so I'm seeing a little stem in here. Right there's one. I'm just going to pull it off, put it to the side, and just kind of look through the berries as you go. And every once in a while you might find a little leaf or something. Thought I saw a stem. Okay, so here's another stem. Just kind of pulling that off. So these are 18-ounce containers, and so that's the recipe calls for 4 cups, I believe, of berries. Well, it actually calls for 2 1/4 pounds. Oh, see, I just stepped on that berry. Doggone it. Get it off of here. Okay. So it calls for 2 1/4 pounds, and it's 2 18-ounce containers. So that's close enough from my perspective, and so I'm just going to use all of it. So I am seeing some more little stems. Let me carefully look through here again. All right, I just spotted another one. All right, where'd it go? Here it is. It just takes a minute or two to do this, so these are really pretty clean. If you are able to go pick berries yourself, then you're probably assured of not having any stems in when you pick them yourself, but this is pretty clean for commercially produced. These particular berries are local berries. Well, kind of local. They're the Michigan berries. They are from Pawpaw, Michigan, which is down the state from us. We actually grow really nice blueberries up in this area, but today is September 1st, and the picking is pretty much over with up here for now. I know in the southern states, when we lived in southern Indiana, picking the blueberries usually finished up around the 4th of July, but up here in the north, we've got a little bit, well, quite a different weather pattern, and so our blueberries don't start until June, late June, and finish up in August generally. It's been everything's been a little late this year, so here is September 1st, and I think the You Pick It farm where I go does still have some berries, but they're about to cut it off. Okay, these are all clean. I'm going to give them a wash and then come right back. Okay, I've got my berries all washed. Oh, there's another one I want to pull out. It's a little past its prime, but into the pot they are going to go. There's a little water in there. That's fine. It will evaporate when it's being cooked. So into the pan, you want to put your clean and sorted blueberries. And the recipe calls for mashing them, but I have found that I can just do that as I go when it's heating. So to the blueberries, we are going to be adding the lemon juice and the calcium water. Okay, I've put the blueberries in the pan and I've turned the heat on under it. Now we're going to be putting in the calcium water and the lemon juice. And whenever you're doing canning, you want to use a standardized lemon juice. And so this is just the Walmart brand. You can get real lemon. It's all pretty much the same thing. And we're going to use 1/4 cup of this lemon juice. Again, it's very important that you use the standardized lemon juice and not just squeeze lemons, because the lemons have varying amounts of acidity, and you want this to be a little acidic so that we can water bath can them. All right, the next thing is 2 teaspoons of this calcium water, and you're gonna make this up and keep it in your refrigerator until you need it. But I need 2 teaspoons of that. I'm gonna find my teaspoon. Here it is. 1. This is calcium water. And 2. Let's put a little, so put a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to put my calcium water back into the refrigerator and keep that for the next batch. At this point, I'm just going to mix this all up, and I'm going to come over here a little closer, and you're going to see me mashing it. I suppose you could put this in a food processor, but I'm not really fond of having to clean out all of the paraphernalia in food processors. This is fast to wash, and this really does take very little time. You just want to get these berries gently mashed up as they're heating. And as they're heating, they're going to rupture very easily. And you can see they're already giving off a lot of their juice. Well, hopefully you can see. I'm going to move the camera over real quick. There we go. You can see that it's starting to give up a lot of juice already. So I'm going to reset this. The camera flopped around for some reason. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. My camera is being a little persnickety with me today and is not maintaining its position on the tripod. So I have this at a medium-high heat, and it's really coming along very quickly. And essentially, you're just going to keep sort of stirring and mashing. Once it comes to a full boil, those berries are pretty much going to be fully mashed. It's smelling really great. And don't worry about every berry being mashed, because during this whole process, the berries are pretty much going to rupture and turn to mush, so just do your best and don't worry about everything being completely mushed. I mean, look how fast that happened. Very, very quickly. And I'm going to consider it complete at this point. And I'm going to need a different spoon now. All right, we are now at the point where we're going to need to add the powdered pectin from the Pomona's Pectin box. And again, this was already opened, and it's good for several uses. It's not just a one-time use like other types of pectin. So I'm going to need 2 teaspoons. So just a little powder in there. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm just using my ½ teaspoon measure just to add it to the top here. We're kind of down to the bottom of the, so that's just 1 teaspoon, kind of the bottom of this package. Anyway, all right, I think this is going to do it. So I'm going to just add the rest to the sugar, that empty stat box, and I'm going to come over here and stir this in. Make sure you're stirring constantly because you want all of this to dissolve. You stir constantly and then wait until it comes up to a complete boil. Again, you're going to let it boil for a couple of minutes and then it's time to can it. I mean, how easy was that? I probably should have just sprinkled that sugar and pectin mixture over this to prevent there being any clumps remaining. But this actually looks okay. You do think there might be some little lumps of that remaining. You just kind of squish them with the back of your spoon. And I do like to scrape the sides of the pan. I'm going to get a spatula here in a minute and scrape it because it tends to congeal and then get real hard around the edges of the pan. And it's actually starting to thicken up a little bit. You can tell that it is. So that, for me, that's my cue to go ahead and turn off the pan. Again, you can find a spatula. Go ahead and scrape the edges here. And I'm going to turn it off. Yeah, so you can see kind of how it got congealed on the edges there. I just scraped it off. We're going to turn off this pan. The bottom of the pan is going to be still hot, so you're going to want to stir it every couple of minutes as you're going through this process. So I'm going to turn the camera back for just a second, and then I'm going to get all of my canning supplies sitting right here, and we will continue on. Okay, I'm going to kind of get my area ready. My lids, my rings, my funnel. I'm going to need this. And the rest of the stuff I'm getting out of the way. Okay. Oh, crying out loud. Okay, so what I have here is a cork, because I don't want there to be any thermal shock with me taking a hot jar and putting it down on a cold counter and having it shatter. It will just ruin whatever was in that jar. So I do have that down, and I have my funnel and a cloth because it gets messy. I've got a little bit of vinegar in a bowl to wipe the rims of the jars. Technically, you're supposed to make sure there's no air bubbles in your jars, and that's what this is for. But this is a liquid, so it's probably not going to have any air bubbles, but I will do it anyway, just to be sure, right? Okay, we are ready to start canning this jam. And we haven't been at it for very long. What, 20 minutes? It goes that fast. So this is water bath canning, and the jars have been in here heating up and sterilizing, and so I'm going to want 1 to 2 inches of water above each canning jar. So I pour the water back into here, and that will raise the water level when I put the jars in. All right, we've got hot jar, hot jam, and start putting it in the jars. The recipe calls for 1/4 inch of headspace. I usually give a little bit more than that, just to make sure that there's no problems with it being overfilled. I'm going to clean it with a little bit of vinegar on the top of the jar rim. Attach my lid. Screw the ring down just finger tight. That's as far as you want. No wrist action, just with your hands and fingers. And back into the water bath canner it goes. So I've made this recipe before and it did give me 6 jars. Again, empty out the water back into the pot. That is a steaming hot jar. And we're going to be put steaming hot jam into it. Splashed. I found about 2 ladles full is about, see, now that filled a little bit more. 2 ladles full is about what it takes to fill these little jars. And those jars are very hot. If you have a countertop that is very sensitive to dyes, make sure you do have it covered, because this tends to be a little tendency to stain. I have not debubbled as I should. This one's a little more than I want, so if you overfill your jar, that's not a problem. Just empty a little out. All right, that's fine. Clean any stickiness off the top of your jar so that there's no problem with the lid sealing. It doesn't matter if it's on the inside, below the rim. It just can't be on the surface where that lid is going to be touching. Sure, it's going to make the 6 this time for whatever reason. Maybe the berries were a little smaller, I don't know, but this is about this is the same product I used the last time and I actually got 6 jars, but it is what it is. If you have an extra jar in the canner, that's fine. Just leave it there. It's not going to hurt anything. But it does kind of keep a space so that you don't have jars falling over. I do see one jar that's kind of tipping, so I am going to, a little bit, I'm going to upright that. Let's see if I get another implement to fix that. It does actually help to have some of these so you can upright any. Well, that one's really trying to fall over. Upright any jars that are not cooperating. If it falls over, just get in there with your tongs and pull it upright again. All right, I've got 4 jars in here. I'm really thinking this is going to be the last one. I'm going to come back over here and just pick up the pot because it's getting down to the bottom. Look at all that great jam. Oh, yum yum. Hot pad. All right. I'm going to scrape the sides and get all of that blueberry goodness so we don't lose any of it. right, I'm gonna use this little spoon to scrape as much off of the bigger spoon and the sides of that funnel as I can. Get every bit of that berry goodness. All right, we got exactly 5 jars. Which is interesting because last time I got exactly 6 jars, but again, maybe the weight on those berries was less than 18 inches, 18 ounces. It's entirely possible because that's the difference between an entire half pint. But that's what we got today. 5 jars. So into the bath it goes. All right, that one's wanting to fall over too, so I'm gonna just use my tongs and get it back upright. Okay, here is our water bath canner. You're probably hearing some other noise in the background. That's my dishwasher. And while we're doing this video, you might hear my dog bark and you might hear some heavy equipment not too far away from here in the woods. So anyway, here is our water bath canner. And there is the extra jar that's in there. It doesn't hurt anything. We've got about 1.5 inches of water above the level of those jars, and that's what we want. So at this point, I am going to put the lid on and turn the heat up, and I'll show you when it is the right boiling point so that when we start our counting of the processing. All right, we are only, well, less than 45 minutes into this process, and our jars of blueberry jam are already in the canner. The heat has been turned up, and it's almost to that boiling point where we're going to be starting our 10 minutes of processing time. But I did want to let you know that down below in the description, I will be putting a link to how you can buy the Pomona's Universal Pectin and the cookbook on using that product in Amazon. I'll put that link down below, but I'll also put a link down below to Pomona's Universal Pectin website so that you can read a little bit more about it and understand how it works, because you might encounter some people who have never seen it before, don't know how it works, and they might think, oh, we can't eat that. It, wasn't prepared according to, standards. Well, the books that Ball puts out, the jar manufacturers, they also do some books for processing and doing jams and jellies and pickles and that kind of stuff. They also do some books. Anyway, the Ball preservation books, also a good resource, but they don't have any information about Pomona's Universal Pectin in it. So go ahead and take a look at the Universal Pectin site so that you understand how it works and can explain to others how it works. It's really a wonderful way to get a lower sugar product. And it looks like the pan is to a boiling point. I'm going to show you what that looks like, and then we're going to start our timer. Okay, we are at the proper boiling point. I wanted you to see this. This is about how it should be boiling before you start counting your 10 minutes. So I'm going to put the lid back on, get the timer going for 10 minutes, and I'll be back as soon as we hit that 10-minute time point for processing. All right, the timer has just gone off, so I'm going to be turning off the heat, and we're going to set the timer again for 5 minutes, and I will be back, and then we can take the top off of this pan. Okay, our 5 minutes are up. It's been 5 minutes since I turned the heat off, and I'm looking in here, and I could see that none of the tops have sealed yet, but I am going to lift them out and put them down here. There's no open windows, no open doors, no fans going. You don't want there to be any cold breezes hitting these when you pull them out. So the time has come to pull them out of the canner. Straight up. Those are absolutely beautiful. And none of the contents of the jars has siphoned into the water. That occurs when their pressure is just unequal, or you've overfilled your jars and you end up with the contents of the jars coming out of the jars and into the water. That's the scenario you do not want. All right, I'm going to pull this one that didn't get used out and let it cool down. Then I'll put it aside, use it another time. So I can see that none of these have actually completely sealed yet. When they have completely sealed, this little nipple in the very center of each one of these jars will go down. This one's getting ready to, and perhaps we'll hear it in just a moment. It'll make a clicking sound. And I'm going to leave the camera on so that you can hear it, so that you know that your jars are sealing. At this point, that hasn't happened with any of them. If you look at the video that I did on, I believe it was bread and butter pickles, you will show, I will show you one of the jars that didn't seal and how you will know if it didn't seal and whether it's safe to put on your shelf or not. So that will be in the bread and butter pickle video. At this point, we're still waiting for these to seal. All right, so you just heard one. That was this one that sealed. And they're all going to start snapping here in just a second. Okay, at this point, 4 out of the 5 have sealed already. You've heard the little snap. I'm still waiting on this last one. And when it does, then we'll know everything has sealed, and I will move them to where they need to be. Oh, there it just went. Okay, so all 5 have snapped, all 5 have sealed, and so I'm going to move these over to an area of the counter where they will be sitting undisturbed for about 24 hours. What you don't want to do is think, oh, it's sealed, and take the ring off, turn the jar upside down, anything like that. You just need to put it someplace where it will go undisturbed and let it just rest for 24 hours before you take any of the rings off or do anything else like that. Okay, we have 5 beautiful jars of blueberry jam using low sugar. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen this morning and on my channel, Homestead in the Woods. I do hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider subscribing and liking. Doing those 2 things will help me with the analytics on the YouTube channels in general, so that more people have an opportunity to see what I'm providing. And certainly you can share it through other social media sites, share it on your Facebook page, whatever you want to do, that's fine. Anything but doing like a copy and paste kind of thing, which isn't allowed because of copyright. So thank you again for being here with me, and I hope to see you on the next video.